Welcome to Credit Union Discussions, the podcast where we meet exciting people from the world of credit unions and discuss the latest news and trends.
Welcome to Credit Union Discussions, Eps000, recorded on Tuesday, the 5th of January 2021. In today's episode, we are going to introduce the host of the show, Michael Byrne, and find out more about Michael's personal and professional background and why he has decided to launch a podcast. I'm Vivienne Keavey, CEO of RTE Credit Union.
And I'm Michael Byrne, CEO of Core Credit Union and the host of this new podcast where we aim to discuss all things credit union.
So, Michael, tell me more about the podcast that you're launching.
I've been an avid podcast listener for over a decade now, and I first had an idea of launching a credit union podcast as far back as 2012, but I never actually had time to get around to doing it. I made notes, I made structures of. I'm using those notes today for this podcast. So it's something I've been thinking about for a long, long time. I suppose what I want to do is, and what I hope that the podcast will be focusing on credit unions. And I very much hope that it will become a source for colleagues like yourself and myself and friends in the credit union to keep up to date on issues and relevant issues and where we can learn from each other.
Very good. And I suppose that's no more time more relevant than now when we're actually not meeting in person. So, you know, it's kind of an extension of the whole Zoom meeting thing as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. And many of us are busy. You're driving to and from work every day. And, you know, if you can download a podcast and just listen to something for half an hour as you're going along to work, it's a great way just to be updated while you're going along. And, you know, as well as being educational, I hope it'll also be entertaining as well. Mm-hmm. And, you know, my plan of action would be to bring different guests from the credit union sector in and other credit union CEOs, you know, suppliers to the sector who are providing, say, IT, cyber security skills, you know, risk, compliance, audit. There are topical things today where we'll bring the people who are up on top of their game in to have discussions about, you know, if there's new legislation coming in where someone can break it down, make it easy for people to understand, have a discussion about it, that hopefully be easier for people to consume and people to understand what's going on rather than sitting down reading the legislation themselves. But also then giving people an opportunity to find out what other credit unions around the country are doing, what's working for them, and just, you know, overall trying to build a bit of community around what we do. We're very good for sharing knowledge and information with each other, and I hope this will just put a bit of a structure on it where people will be able to dive into it, pull up an episode that talks about, say, marketing or talks about something else that's relevant to them and just dip into it when they want to, and, you know, and then hopefully through that use the context within credit unions to help each other and help ourselves. Very
good. And I suppose it's an accessible channel, so that's something that's really good at the moment as well.
Absolutely, yeah. As I say, 10 years ago when I began listening to podcasts, I was probably one of the few listening to podcasts at that stage, whereas over the last 10 years, podcasts have been growing and growing. And, you know, there's very, very few people now that don't listen to at least one or two podcasts on a weekly basis. So it's a great medium. You know, you can dip into it if you're going out for your walk, or if you're driving, you can just play your podcast while you're doing your bit of exercise or while you're going for the drive. So it's just convenience as well.
Yeah. So what structure will the podcast be in?
I suppose what we're going to look at is, and again, it's something new, will always be loose, and if it needs to change, we'll change it as we go along, we'll learn as we go along. So I'm sort of going to break it down into three sort of sections, and the first section we're going to sort of have is just a quick roundup of credit union news items that's been happening since the last episode, and just a quick rundown of what's happening and what's in the media and things like that. The second section, what I'm hoping it will be chat with the guest presenter or guest presenters about their background, how they got into their career, how they got to where they were, because, you know, very much, you often have people outside looking at how did Michael Byrne become the CEO of Core Credit Union? You know, how did he get to that position? I'd like to be a CEO. What steps should I be taking now to get to CEO in a few years' time, or be whatever other role it is, marketing or finance or an audit or whatever. So if we've guests on talking about a specific thing, that, you know, we'll get some insights from that guest in what their background was and what led them to where they are today. And hopefully that'll give some inspiration to people. And then finally, that will, you know, in each episode, I will do a bit of a deep dive into a specific topic with the guest. And hopefully both myself and the audience then will have an opportunity to learn from the guest's expertise and experience in that particular area.
Okay, so how can the audience get involved in the podcast?
So look, I'll be using social media. I'll probably use LinkedIn initially as a way of trying to get the podcast out there. I'll set up a website for the podcast as well with a forum on it so that people can actually get onto the forum themselves and post and help each other as well. Because again, I'm only one person. I want this to be about a couple of credit union people coming together to help each other. And, I might have the question, somebody else might have the answer. And if we can have a bit of a community, a bit of a forum going around the podcast, that people will be able to communicate with each other all around that. And again, if they have ideas for new episodes, that the ideas will come through that forum as well. And that can identify new potential guests that we should get talking to or whatever. And we'll bring them onto the show then and interview them.
So have you any guests lined up already?
I'm currently talking to a couple of people, and again, sort of to get it up off the ground, I'm going to trying to get a few very interesting people up front on it from a couple of different fields that I'm particularly interested in myself. The CEO Forum recently launched a few papers, so we'll try and get a few episodes around the papers launched by the CEO Forum because they're very good and very topical at the moment. So that'll be the first few shows that I plan on launching.
So how often will you be publishing an episode?
I wish I had. This is something I'd love to be able to do full time, but I don't think it's something. I still have a mortgage to pay and still have bills to pay, so I don't think this will be covering that for me. So it'll be something I'll be doing part time. It'll be sort of something I'll be doing outside the normal working week and things like that. So I would still hope that if we can get it down efficiently and organised, that we'll do about 20 episodes a year, once a fortnight. And obviously, say taking off at Christmas and summer, you'll be all gone for a few weeks and stuff like that. But say about 20 episodes every week, so people can expect an episode to come in at once a fortnight into their feed, hopefully.
Very good. You know what they say: give a busy person a job, and you are that person.
Yeah. I was talking to an email from another credit union manager yesterday. He'd heard that I was after taking a stepping back from the board of PAYAC, and I was wondering what I was going to do, and then realised I was going for the board of the league, and now I'm looking at doing something like this. So I like to keep myself busy. Too busy at times.
Yeah. Well, you're a great advocate for credit unions and a great representative, Michael. So I wish you the best of luck in everything that you do.
Thanks very much, Vivienne, and hopefully we'll get great community going around the podcast.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to Credit Union Discussions. Please subscribe on iTunes and leave a comment or any other podcast app of your choice. Check out our website on www.cud.ie and register for our forum and leave a message or a suggestion and join the conversation.